Welcome back, excellent minds, to another exciting tutorial on our channel. Today we have a highly requested topic that will enhance your Excel skills and boost your productivity. In this video, we'll be diving deep into the world of VLOOKUP, an incredibly powerful function in Excel. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced user, this tutorial will provide you with the essential knowledge to master VLOOKUP. But before we get started, if you haven't already done so, go right ahead and hit subscribe on our channel so you don't miss out on any other productive and exciting tips and tricks with Microsoft Excel. So let's get started. First, let us understand what VLOOKUP is and why it is such a useful function in Excel. Now, VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup, right? When it's kind of you're actually looking up something. I'll show you, you're looking up a value over a specific column, and Microsoft Excel's VLOOKUP tries to evaluate cell by cell. It's like looking it up, downwards vertically. So that's the reason behind that naming. And it also allows you to search for a specific value in a table. And these are they can depend on the city. You could be interested with looking up like Janus, customer's zip. That really depends, or maybe date of birth. And so that's basically what VLOOKUP is all about. This function is commonly used for tasks like searching databases, as simple as this one, and also creating reports and consolidating data. And so how it works is that, like I said, when you look up Janice right in here, and you try to look for a match of that specific, record, and it depends on what specific column you're trying to look for as a value associated with this value, like Janice X Waller over here. And like I said, customer zip, then you can return customer zip, date of birth, then you could, decide to choose return of birth, or probably what the order ID is, and so on. And if you go ahead and try to find or try to uh, enter the VLOOKUP function, you get to be given a definition of what it is. So it looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table right here. In this case, customer name, for example. And then what it does is it then returns a value in the same row, okay? In the same row, like I said, if in our example for Janus, uh, it has to be any value along the same row, whatever it is, the subject of your lookup. And to continue with the definition, by default, the table must also be sorted in an ascending order. And then above here is actually the arguments or the syntax, if you will. When you try to enter the VLOOKUP function, the IntelliSense will present to you the arguments required. Let's have a look at the lookup value. The lookup value is actually the value that you're trying to look for a match. And for instance, you are looking for a value that says Janice Waller. I could put that over here, and then that would be the lookup value. Your objective is to find the date of birth and the payment type, just for example. Now, the lookup value is what your subject of finding as a match. Then from the match that it finds, it goes right ahead and will and then it will ask a few of your uh, desired data associated with it. Let's have a look at how to enter that argument. So if I would go right ahead and look up Janice Waller's date of birth, I'd start with the function, and then I will go right ahead and refer to Janus X Waller over here, like so. This is a table, and so that is the reason why the cell reference is no longer an address, which is a column and a row reference. This time it's a name range, which is customer name. That is the one of the great advantages of using tables, which we can discuss further in another episode. For now, customer name is simply the name of this reference right here, which is Janice X Waller. So that's how you enter the argument for the lookup. You are looking up Janice X Waller from this table. Okay. Now, to move on, let's move forward into the next argument of VLOOKUP. It is called the table array. So, simply, a table array is where you are trying to look up the value from. So, we could tell that I'm trying to look up the value over from this table, right? This entire table right here. This would be your table array. So it answers the question, where would you like me to look up Janus X Waller from? And so that argument should give that value. Now let's proceed with how to enter that value or that argument as you build your formula. And in order to do that, you just simply, again, starting from entering the function name VLOOKUP, I now refer to Janus X Waller. So simply clicking on this value right here will give you the customer name. This indicates that you are referring very uh, conveniently to the customer name, and so that already gives you an idea as to what you're looking up. It's simply a customer name, so it's a great indicator of context. Now you put a comma after the first argument to close that argument definition. Now it's time. You're looking at a table array. You know that you are entering a table array when that value from the IntelliSense image right here, or this executed a displayed helper, when that argument is in bold font. And you know that you are now asked of a table array because now it's being in a bold format over here. So when you get this, go right ahead and go to the sheet or the source of your or the table that you are going to look up that Janice X Waller name from. It doesn't have to be uh, in the same workbook like this one. It doesn't have to be in the same sheet. This could be on a different workbook from a different file. In our case, we're using a sheet that is in the same workbook. Now, because this is a table right here, I can just simply click on any active cell in my table, and I just hit Control A, and that uh, okay. Let me okay. Let me go ahead and try to recreate that. So the lookup value is Janus X Waller. And now you go right ahead and point to your table reference. So I'm gonna hit the data sheet, and I can click on this corner from A1 and hit a control end on my keyboard as a hotkey, and it highlights the entire table. And then it you can keep it this way, data A1 to R3 368, but you wanna I suggest you give it a lock kind of a reference, meaning it's locked on A1 all the way to R368. So doing that, I can go into I can go right after A1 before the colon symbol, and I hit F4. That kinds of locks A1 as a reference. I'm gonna do the same through R368, and I'm going to hit F4, and that locks the reference defined as data sheet. As you can see, it's referring to the data sheet right here, but specifically from the A1 cell all the way to the corner on the lower right hand corner side of the table, which is R368. So, so that the cell reference does not change when you try to fill this formula down. Okay, so I'm going to put a comma to close that argument, and that's how you enter the reference for your table array. Now let's go ahead and discuss what the third argument for VLOOKUP. It's called the column index number, and it's in bold because we've just finished declaring our second argument. Now it's time for you to understand what a column index number is, and that would be if I'll go ahead and um, get out of that formula builder. I'll go ahead and go to the data sheet. And remember, we are trying to look up Janice Waller's date of birth for that row or for that column. You'll have to understand that the column index number is actually the number of columns starting from the column where you're trying to find a match for the string Janus X Waller. And that's going to be from column A. And from column A, how many rows uh, does does it have, or does how many rows do you count to get to the customer's date of birth? So obviously that's going to be first column, second column, third, fourth, fifth, and you can tell that it's the date of birth is in the sixth column. So that's how you kind of make an index or understand the indexing of the column when it comes to the VLOOKUP argument column index number. So let's go back to our formula builder and do this. My lookup value is Janus X Waller. My table array, I'll go back to data sheet, go to this corner and point it all the way to the end. And we'll lock the reference for A4 by hitting A4. I'm sorry, A1, and I'm going to lock the same for R368. I'm hitting F4, and that locks it right, like that. I'm putting a comma to complete my declaration of the second argument. Now, column index number. Remember, it was the sixth column, so you can simply just enter the number six value, like so, and then put a comma, and that takes care of your column index number. Now, finally, there is an optional like a fourth argument, which is called the range lookup. As you're looking as I am pointing over here, it could either be true or false. So when you try to select true, you are actually making a declaring to Excel that the value Janus X Waller must be an exact match to say that it does match it before it returns to you the value from the sixth column. And if you say approximate match, you are actually allowing Excel to not limit to an exact match, right? Like this one, but instead something that could be uh, either very close to that value Janus X Waller. This is very useful when it comes to numbers instead of strings, like this. Approximate match works best when you are trying to look for a match for like numerical values, because numerical values can have a relationship to other values by by seeing how approximate it is into that value. So for in this case, we will be using an exact match. That is what we'll use to find the value for this name. So let's pick false instead and you can hit tab, and then you can put a closing parentheses to complete the function. This should be good. So I'm going to hit enter, and there you have it. So this 30048, I think we may have actually, let's find out if we did one, two, three, four, five, and six. Okay, one, two, three, four, five. For Janice X Waller, it says 30008. Actually, it was actually uh, the date of birth. If I go back here, and it just happened to be the general format. So if I were to pick the this column or select this and hit format, if I go to home, you see it's in general. But if you try to hit the short date, you do you do get the value in its original format from the data right there. And so that is how to write that formula explaining to you what the arguments are. So again, as a recap, the lookup value is the value that you want to search from which from the leftmost column of the table. Okay, and that's it. That is what we are referring to as the leftmost column of the table. Now the table array right here is the range of cells that contain your table. So this is the table, but the range of cells that contains the information will be the entire thing. That's a table array. So, and then for column index number, the third argument, this is the column number in the table from which you want to retrieve the data. Again, it's how Excel defines the index number of it. So it's just first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and the sixth column. So the column index number is the value 6. And then finally, we have the optional argument called the range lookup. When I say optional, that means that it's okay for you to skip it, and it will default into an exact match lookup. And again, it's an optional argument that specifies whether you want an exact match or an approximate match. Let's try another example and try to rebuild that. But this time, let's look for the payment type. Oh, and I'm going to try to also define the table array to make it more convenient. So here's a heads up of a tip when it comes to using VLOOKUP. I will go right ahead and highlight everything, but I will go and hit formula, and I will hit define name. And guess what? You now have a box, a dialog asking Excel asking you how would you like it to call this range. So I'm going to say customer data. By the way, you must not put spaces. And as you can see, this is exactly the reference of how we wrote the second argument, the table array. So for convenience, I'm going to name it customer data. And I will hit OK. So that Excel takes care of defining it in the background, and you can easily refer to it by simply typing its name. I'll show you that in a bit. Let's proceed with doing one more exercise in building the VLOOKUP formula. So I will do is I'll go ahead and enter in the name of the function, VLOOKUP, and we have the first argument ready. And all you gotta do is just click on this cell right here to give you its customer name range be displayed right here in blue. I'll go ahead and put a comma to prompt me to my second argument table array. Again, remember our table that it would be right back in the data sheet. That's where we're looking up Janie's X Waller. And guess what? I'm simply gonna type in customer data, and you are actually automatically given that, as a suggested array. I'll go ahead and hit tab, and I'll put a comma, and as you can see, that already is sufficient to declare your table array. Now I know that the index number remains as the number 6. And finally, guess what? I'll skip the range lookup to show you that you can skip it. And if you can skip it, especially if you always prefer an exact lookup kind of method of evaluating the match. So I'm gonna put closing parentheses, and I'm gonna hit enter or return, and there you have it. That's the payment type. I apologize. The payment type is not the 6 index. So let's do a count. That's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. So it's gonna be the ninth column index. So here you'll see how you can edit your argument. Remember that 6 right there. You just backspace that and put the value 9. That should take care of it. And there you have it. You finally have yourself uh, a successful formula created for the payment type. And because you have a table, you can just simply fill it down. And of course, let's make this more realistic and get some more names. Okay. All right. Let's leave it like that. And let's proceed with some more information about VLOOKUP. Some of the do's and don'ts of VLOOKUP. Do understand that the data types, must be fit, or must be always be the correct one when it comes to creating any formula at all. Ensure that the data types in your lookup value more specifically, and the lookup column match. So what that means is that, you know if you're looking up a text or a string right here, make sure that the column where you're looking it up from are also strings, are not text, I mean not numbers, right? And if you're looking up a number, you know then make sure that they are in number. You could easily do that by simply, you can tell if they are strings. That's pretty much a giveaway, and you can already tell that you are compliant with that, uh, do when it comes to VLOOKUP. When there are numbers, make sure they are numbers. A number can look like this, or it could be like that. Okay, so this is not a number, this is a string, and you want to always make sure that they match by hitting, convert to number if it is a number that you're trying to look up. So that's just to explain the importance of making sure that data types are the same when it comes to lookup value and where you're looking it up from. Another thing that you must make sure is that you must use the exact match whenever possible, and that's what we did. Our argument here is always exact match, which is, by the way, indicated by the word false. And the reason for that, or bad, you could also alternatively put 0. That's the same as exact match. That's a second tip, okay? And still works. All right. Again, you can either skip it to make it an exact match. You can put in the word false, like so. It'll still be exact match. If you could also put 0, and it's also going to instruct Excel to use exact match. So as much as possible, use exact match when it comes to, looking up dimensions such as names, non-numerical. uh, non-numerical lookup values, always use an exact match. And another thing that you may need to do is to make sure that before using the VLOOKUP, you must sort the lookup column in ascending order. So I didn't show you that, but make sure that you sort it in an ascending order if they are in numerical. But if they are strings, A to Z will do, or, or that should suffice that requirement. Another thing that you need to make sure that you do is that you must use absolute cell references for the table array. And I did that by naming the array like I did in defining it as customer name. That makes sure that the uh, the array is being declared with an absolute reference to it. Or if not, um, you can make sure that you lock your cell references. Like in this case, you're seeing dollar signs between A1 to R368. Okay, and that ensures that the cell references for the table array is constant while the formula is being filled down, like you saw me, do that earlier. That's and that's the reason why you need to lock your references. Another tip: use the if error statement in order to handle return values that says error because it did not find any lookup. I'll show you right. I'll show you that right now. One way, let's just for instance say you put a value here that does not exist from that column, you get to see this error right here. Now, how it is one thing that you must always do is to always introduce an if error, nest it outside of the formula, like so. The if error requires two argument, the value that you know, you're trying to evaluate for an error return, which is the result of this function. So then that should be my first argument. I put a comma right after that so I can now be on my second argument for my if error, which is simply the value that you'd like to return if it is indeed an error returned from the VLOOKUP function. So if it's an error, I can do this, which is indicating as an like a no value or an empty space, or I can have it as like this, which means it's one space, or I can make it probably say a string that says not found. I will stick to not found so that it implies that hey, there was no record found for that XXXF customer name. And there you go. That's it. Okay, and you might see if I hit F9. Let's see here. Okay, let's try the other formula and refer to this. Okay, it's interesting how it found PayPal right here. Okay, okay, and my table array is of course the customer data, and I'm just gonna hit 9 and close it. Okay. Okay. What actually happened was the range lookup earlier was skipped. If you remember, that's why it tried to look it up using an approximate match. And so if you try to explicitly say 0 or false, and I refer back to customer name like so, it definitely will not find any value. So in this case, again, enclose it in an if error function, like so. And then the value if error not found in this case, and just close it. All right. So that should give you the some of the do's when it comes to using the VLOOKUP function. But there are also other things that you must not do. Okay, do not forget to lock the lookup value cell. So in this case, let's in this case, you see we are using customer name as a reference for my lookup value. So that takes care of locking it because it's already a defined name. But if it wasn't, you can try to lock it like this, like that. Or let's say C, that is referred to as C6 because that's the address of that cell. But you want to lock the reference like that, but you can also skip the dollar sign right after, I mean, right before the number six, like this. And then our uh, our table array is customer data. Our index number is 6. Let's make sure that you define it as 0 or exact match. And don't forget to hit, to put an if error around it and say not found in quotation, like so. And so that way when you try to scroll it down, it does return it exactly like this. So in this case, we didn't have to put a dollar sign after that, but just in case you are moving that formula somewhere, I'll show you. Now I put a dollar sign in. If I copy that and put it here, then I wouldn't have any issues because I was able to lock it to C6. So that's the something that you must not do, which is forget to lock your lookup value simply for the purpose of copying that formula to another cell. Also, another thing that you must not do is to rely on a range lookup uh, default behavior. So avoid relying on the default behavior of a range lookup. Always specify false or zero, just like what I did earlier. I was I was relying on a default, like skipping the argument that says right here the range lookup. Do not do not rely on its default behavior. Okay, so always declare it as false or zero. Another thing that you must not do is not to use the VLOOKUP with multiple criteria. Remember, VLOOKUP can only handle one lookup value at a time. That's this is well something that you will easily comply with because again, VLOOKUP will give you an error anyway when you try to uh, use multiple lookup values. Like if I say C6 for instance, and I lock it for C6 like that, and sometimes you want to do this. So you must only declare one cell reference. Do not declare more than one reference. So I'll show you. Let's see if that would work. Okay. Like putting something like this, a colon to specify more. And I want to say, let's say I wanted to say something down, which is C7, for instance. Okay. And I say column, the table array is customer. data, and I say sixth index, and I put 0. Okay. So what the result of that is going to be an array which will spill down right here. Okay. It's gonna spill down, but you do not need to specify a multiple reference or a range because the result will become a range as well. Okay. Now, if you wanted to like use multiple criteria, right? And then you are needed for your formula, then you can perform that lookup based on functions like index and then combining the match function in order to get a different kind of lookup. And we can talk about that later on in this video. But for now, always make sure that your lookup value is referring simply to a single reference. One way to clean it is to, probably use trim or you can use clean or you could use trim. Those are some of the functions that can help. So by keeping these do's and don'ts in mind, you'll be better equipped to use VLOOKUP effectively and avoid common pitfalls like I showed you. And then also, while a VLOOKUP is an incredibly useful function, there are some common mistakes that a beginner, often make. So were as long as you try to, remember those do's and don'ts, then I think you'll be quite, be good at this. So, but this time, let's talk about alternatives to VLOOKUP. There are actually alternatives to it, and I personally, use them over VLOOKUP. So let's proceed with another alternative to it. Although VLOOKUP is powerful, it's not the only game in town. Excel offers alternative functions like, just like I said, index and a match combination function, or the most recent one that I always use a lot is called X lookup. They provide additional flexibility and functionality. In this section, let's briefly introduce this to you and let's discuss, what might be more suitable than VLOOKUP. So let's start with index and then match. First, let's see what index says. Index, let's follow the first row of syntax. This is the syntax of index. You have an array argument, a row number argument, and then an optional column number argument. Okay. But what does index do? It returns a value or reference of the cell at the intersection of a particular row and column in a given range. If let's have this as an example. So let's say I want to index the reference B5, for instance, and you know that B5 is the 36 second street value. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a simple formula for that. Let's do it over here. So I know that okay, so if I enter index, I am asked of the array. All right, the array is the customer data. So this is the great thing about defining your, or, your table, like I did. I'm gonna hit tab, so that's my array. But what's the row number? The row number, I'm gonna declare the sixth row and the second column, which is column B. That should take care of the third argument and completing the argument uh, that I needed for this formula. So I'm gonna hit close, and like what we expected is the 36 second street because That's the that's a sixth row and the second column. So that's how this row number and column number argument is being used as the parameter of your index. Next, let's talk about match. The match function returns the relative position of an item in an array that matches a specified value in a specified order. What does that mean? So in this case, let's take a look at, well, it would be best if I give us an example over here. So what you're looking at right here is a column that is titled match with four names in it. And to demonstrate the match function, I will pick this cell and build that function or that formula. So I say match, and what am I looking for? I am looking for a match for the name. So I'm going to put in a quotation the name Sean, for example. Okay. So you can explicitly, write the lookup value as a string itself, or you can also refer to it like a name here, for instance, over here. And if I do a match for that, uh, I would point it into this. So sorry, this became like a column header already, but uh, that should take care of referring it to the value right here. So, but you know what? I will go right ahead and put Sean as a value over here. So let's rebuild that formula match. So what am I trying to look for a match for? I'm referring to Sean. So now you see the formula gave it a definition or a range name, column one. And, but if this was like a cell reference, we could also do that. Sean here is found under D14. So I'm going to say D14. Don't forget to lock it. Uh, like so. And then where am I looking it up from? This time, I'm looking it up from this reference right here. So I can highlight this and you get this, but that's because it's a table. Or you can write it as a cell reference of, it looks like it's a C14 all the way till C17. So I'm writing it with a colon, right? And you could also write it like that as a relative, reference. Okay, cell references. That should take care of that. But the third argument is exact match. So you can either select a less than, kind of like a lookup match type, or do you want a zero, which means an exact match. So usually you'll want zero. I'll put a close parentheses. And as you can see, Sean is actually in position number four. One, two, three, and four. So that's where match comes in. I mean, that's what match is for. It tries to return the position number from how you declared your uh, lookup array. Okay, so there you have it. So how do you use this index and match function combination as an alternative to VLOOKUP? Okay, you do that by nesting them. Okay, let us proceed back here. So I am going back to my data, and probably I'll pick. Let's pick a name here like this. So you want to look up that person's date of birth by using index match. So what you want to do is first open up the formula for index. So use the IntelliSense as your guide as to what argument you are about to enter. So follow the first IntelliSense row for now, which is the simplest way to use index. So array means it's the table. So it's customer data again. All right. But what row number? How do you get the row number of bestie Roland? Well, that's you can get that by doing a match, right? Look for it so it gets the position number. So in the second argument, you don't have to explicitly you know, hard hard write the row number because you can express it in a match function. So now uh, focus now on the match formula, and now you declare the lookup value. I am looking up Bestie Roland's row number, right? So then go ahead and click this. It's a customer name, but where am I going to look up that value from? Now you can go to your data and just simply uh, point it right here and reference the entire column, right? Like so. And you see it's has written it for you as data A1, A368. So I'll put a I'll put a comma to close that argument. And now it's asking for a match type on how to get that row number. I'll say 0, which is the exact match type. I'll close that formula. Uh, let's go back to the VLOOKUP. Okay, that's fine. Now you can see that the match function right here has let's see here. Okay, we got your lookup array, and now our match type is needed. I mean, that's your match type. Your array is this one. Okay, so you've completed the row number argument already, which is this one right here that's highlighted. Now it's time to put another comma uh, to to use the column number, right? What column number is date of birth, and how do you we know that the date of birth is a sixth column, but how do you get that number six be expressed in a match? So you express the number six in a match by finding the match of customer name this time. No, sorry, customer DOB right here. See, you could refer to this way, but if that was not a table, you can refer to it as D5. You can have a you can lock that reference like this. Okay. Now, where do you want to look that up from? I mean, the position of that. You can get that by going to the data. You could take advantage of the header. Okay. So you can highlight customer. Actually, you can highlight the entire header like this and lock it. You're seeing A1 R1. I'm gonna do an F4 on that as well as on the A1 part. That takes care of the lookup array for the match that you are currently writing the formula uh, for. So now I'm going to put a comma for that. And now I want to say 0 because that's how I would want to look for customer's date of birth. This value right here along that row that I just referred to in this formula. So I'm going to put a close parentheses, and that completes your column number argument right there. Now you just need a one single parentheses to complete your index to fix to actually finish your index formula right here. Okay. And what happens when I hit return? You do get the date of birth without using VLOOKUP because it was using a more convenient formula, which is a combination of index and match. Another powerful alternative is the XLOOKUP function. Um, this is, however, introduced in the newer versions of Excel. And if you have a newer version of Excel, then you most likely have it. XLOOKUP combines the functionalities of VLOOKUP and index match, which you just saw just now, in a single function. So, in other words, it's a leveled up version of VLOOKUP or an index match. It offers more versatility and simplicity compared to those functions that I just said, because with XLOOKUP, you can perform both vertical and horizontal lookup, just like what index match did. It did a vertical evaluation here in the name. It also evaluated something along this row, which is which it looked up the name customer DOB. And so that's what XLOOKUP is. And I'll show you right now on how to use that instead. First, let us see what XLOOKUP officially in the IntelliSense is telling us as to what it is. It searches a range or an array for a match, okay, and it returns the item from a second range or array. By default, it is an exact match. Let's go ahead and try that right now. So I will write in the name of the function xlookup. So just fill in the arguments for it. Lookup value. What the lookup value is the same description as to what the lookup value of a VLOOKUP is, right? It's the value you're looking for a match. So you can simply point it to this reference customer name. And the lookup array for XLOOKUP is also the same description for VLOOKUP. Okay, it simply is still the customer data. All right, but this time you are introduced a third argument, a different argument called the return array. Uh, where are you being asked of that? Uh, I mean, it's the it's actually the column where you want to get the it's actually the column that you are asked of to, that you are asking to be returned. So let me first backtrack this. I would like to this explain again the lookup value. The lookup value is the same, Bestie Roland, but I would like to elaborate more on the lookup array for the lookup value. It is actually not the entire table. That's a difference with VLOOKUP. I have to correct myself. With the lookup array for XLOOKUP, it no longer it no longer requires for you uh, to refer to the entire table. You just simply refer to where they are, where the customer names are. So just simply highlight this entire column, and that should, okay, I'm gonna lock those reference right here. All right, like so. That's using F4. Okay, so that should already suffice and actually is the right way to define your lookup array, because that's where the customer name is, right? Okay. Now this time for the return array, this is the column where you are trying to return for this, for this lookup, and it's the date of birth. So it's simply a reference to where they are. Where's the date of birth column? So simply go ahead and highlight the date of birth column like so. So again, I'm gonna lock the reference like so, and so with the F1 and put a comma. Now here's another argument that makes it convenient. What do you want XLOOKUP to return if it doesn't find Bestie Roland from the customer's name field from the data sheet? All right, well, that's great. I can declare not found in quotation. Uh, that should complete your if not found argument. It's simply a straightforward, as described. If it's not found, what would you like it to return? Okay, that's what our argument is all about. Now, the match mode, you will likely always use an exact match, so just select 0. And then on the search mode, that's where it becomes optional. Uh, or the behavior is it's going to be always from first to last. Okay, so that means uh, how do it's a question of how you want Excel to find Bestie Roland from that column name, because there are instances where they can have multiple instances or records of or value that could be found in that column, right? So you now have the option to tell Excel to look for the last. I mean, to look for the first instance it finds, either from first to last or from last to first. So meaning, if Bestie Roland right here, I'll show you, is is found here like so, and they have three instances of it. If you use the first to last argument, uh, the XLOOKUP will return the value for the first instance it finds of Betsy Rowland, which is uh, it's gonna be this same value, which is this one. But let's just say this other two values under here will be different. And if you use the last two first, then you get to return this cell value instead of this one. So that's the great thing about the this argument for X lookup. Okay. Okay. Our array for the lookup array, by the way, again is the customer name, and then our return array is the date of birth, like so. Um. Okay. Lock them like so. And then if not found, you are free to say any string you want. Um, I will consistently always use if not found. And the match mode is always 0. My search mode, I always use, first to last, or sometimes I say last to first. In this case, let's pick -1, okay? Because I want to return the last uh, record that it finds as a match. And then I'm gonna hit return, and there it is, 12/17/1981. Okay, this is what makes XLOOKUP uh, superior among VLOOKUP and index match, because it doesn't matter if the value of or the return array is found on the right side of it or on the left side of it, uh, because VLOOKUP doesn't have that flexibility. For instance, you are looking up a state, and then you are wanting to find the city of it, which is on the left side of it. You cannot use VLOOKUP because the how VLOOKUP uses the column index number is from left to right, not from right to left. Okay. And that is a wrap. Excellent minds. Congratulations on completing this episode's tutorial. And I wanted to go ahead and remind you, if you haven't already done so, please, hit like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any episodes such as this. That would be great for your um, data of your tips and tricks that you could be very useful. So please do. And we will be seeing you on the next episode. So thank you and have a good one.
Just made it today.